Let's explore fatal mantra blunders even experts make. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found of all places on Reddit. It reads, "What should one imagine while chanting mantra?" And the question elaborates. What should one imagine while chanting a mantra? Should it be the visualization of the words of the mantra, the deity to which the mantra relates, or the goal you are trying to attain? I've yet to reach a zero state, so I need to visualize something to maintain concentration. All right, this is a great question that I look forward to answering. We're going to begin with broad brushstrokes. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. This applies to meditation books and meditation teachers as well. To put this in perspective of the yin and yang of it all, the Buddhist lore teach us or explain to us that before the Buddha received the nickname the Buddha, he was known as Gautama, the monk. And the lore also explains to us that Gautama had a wicked cousin named Devadatta, who thought it would be a splendid idea to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and even cruel. Let's put a fine point on this and just look at being rigid and controlling. The Buddha felt the opposite, that it was far better to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. And in essence, or in a nutshell, to be flexible and laid back. What is this to do with the conundrum we find ourselves in? Simply this, that if we are rigid, and if we are controlling, and if we are defined by these attributes, and if these attributes affect our worldview, we're going to fall into the trap of literalism. All complex animal life forms on this planet, if you go back far enough, have evolved to think symbolically. First we perceived, and then eventually we perceived and recalled previous perceptions, and then we perceived and recalled previous perceptions as well as anticipated future perceptions. And so, yes, we evolved to think symbolically. That is why in every language and in every culture there are literal statements, but there were also figurative statements. Similes and metaphors and hyperbole and the like. However, those who are in the thrall of rigidity, forget that. This is not unique to Buddhism. Wherever there are people, there are going to be a significant number who are just stuck in literalism, whether they are religious or secular, whether they're pertaining to that which is vocational or recreational or interpersonal. There's a good number of people who are literal, and they really suffer for that. Those who bring the literal worldview to spiritual treatises, such as the Buddhist tantras, who refuse to explore the possibility that some phrases could be figurative, wind up with some real bizarro stuff that they can only justify by concocting some really bizarre metaphysics. This is why Gaurab Dorje, who was also known as Prahe Vajra, who lived in the Swat Valley of contemporary Afghanistan, or is it Pakistan? No, Afghanistan, who is considered to be the first human teacher of Dzogchen, taught in Dorje Sampa Namkache that such a literalist view of Buddhist visualizations does far more harm than good, and really took a dim view of such a literalist strategy. In fact, he referred to it as children's games. In the commentary to Heart Treasure of the Enlightened Ones, Dilgo Khyentse, the late head of the Nyingma order of Tibetan Buddhism, insisted that Tantra is based on sutra with which it must never contradict. These are powerful words that whose application is far-reaching. Dzogchen Rinpoche, who wrote the root text for Heart Treasure of the Enlightened Ones, therefore taught that he took the classic visualizations of Buddhist Tantra and basically put them on their head, metaphorically speaking, teaching that their purpose is not to bend reality to our will or bend our perception to our will, but just to train in the two bodhicittas. What are those two bodhicittas? They are love and letting go. Well, we'll get back to that in a second. The person asking the question had a typical concern that they had to use imagination and visualization when working with mantra, for they had yet to practice 0 point, which from the context seems to infer the popular idea of mind blanking, that until one masters mind blanking, one must use training wheels. So let's transcend the trap or the quagmire of concentration through the tool of neuroscience. More than 2,000 years ago, the great Greek philosophers recognized that if you have two people from the same culture speaking the same language, you can still have great confusion unless we first begin by agreeing on certain definitions. Now multiply that when you're dealing with people with different languages from different cultures at different times. So translation is less of a science and more of an art. Therefore, there is great confusion on the subject of concentration that I feel that it is best dispelled. This confusion is best dispelled by viewing meditation, by viewing the Buddha's teachings through the lens of neuroscience. So we'll first begin with we're going to explore this in terms of bad news and good news, beginning with bad news. So this is an artist's depiction of the cross-section of the human brain, this being the front of the head, this being the back of the head. So approximately 90% of meditation authors and meditation teachers, with the best of intentions, persuade their students to practice active concentration and active analysis. There's a problem with that. The prefrontal cortex is a marvelous organelle of the brain. It's great for organizing and comparing and contrasting and reasoning and performing mathematics. fabulous, but it is terrible at wrangling the cats of our limbic system, metaphorically speaking. In fact, when we use such structures in our brain, such as the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, to actively concentrate or actively analyze, fMRI studies will show that causes our amygdala to light up, the seat of aggression and anxiety. If we persist in abusing our prefrontal cortex, using it for tasks for which it has not evolved, we will begin to present with the symptoms of depression. And nobody practices meditation because they want more anxiety, aggression, and terror, despair, and rage. And yet that's what they wind up with. So that's the bad news. Now for some good news. There are organelles in our central nervous system that, if we make use of, can give us what we want from meditation. The seventh fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired by evolution to access our sympathetic nervous system effortlessly and automatically. Ensconced within the central third of our spinal cord, this bad boy has evolved to help us to perceive in a special way, to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Can you see how this is in harmony with yin and not yang? How this is in harmony with being flexible and laid back? So we have evolved to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We have also evolved to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Could that get overwhelming? Yeah, sure, you betcha. But nature has given us a solution for that. Let us consider meditation, the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Every time we exhale, we have evolved to automatically and effortlessly access our parasympathetic nervous system, which comprises the bottom third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. Every time we exhale, we are wired, the parasympathetic nervous system is wired to support our physical relaxation as well as our mental release. This is wild. The peace, the mindfulness we want, the meditation we want, the peace we want comes from using the right organelles of our central nervous system in a way that they actually have already evolved to be used. Check this out. Remember how I said when we abuse our prefrontal cortex, it causes our amygdala to light up, which is the seat of aggression and anxiety, and in time it can even cause us to present with symptoms of depression? Remember that? Well, check this out. When we rely upon the sympathetic and parasympathetic facets of our autonomic nervous system, in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, not only does our amygdala calm down, but this thing lights up. What's this thing? You know, this thing that kind of looks like a catcher's mitt? The big kids call it the anterior cingulate gyrus. It functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. This is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. There is another fringe benefit. The more that our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from the effortless effort, which is the sixfold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, of love's centered spontaneity, which comprises 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, then our life works better. Our life can enjoy the bliss that is reminiscent of a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, or Pure Land, or Vati if you prefer Sanskrit. This is wild, and this comes from cooperating with our brain. So remember, our goal is not one point of concentration. One point of concentration will make us cranky. Our goal is to surf the present moment, noticing whatever comes up. The external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. But what has this to do with mantra meditation? Glad you asked. For those who have a healthy and, I should say, a neurotypical central nervous system, this is great. And according to Prahe Vajra, also known as Gaurab Dorje, this is all you need to become a Buddha. Practice mindfulness meditation, and the remaining six folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path take care of themselves gloriously, easily, elegantly. However, those of us who are neurodivergent, those of us who struggle with ADHD or autism or both, have difficulty managing our dopamine, and we can find straight mindfulness meditation to be exhausting, to literally exhaust our dopamine supply. So for those of us who are neurodivergent, it is recommended that we flip and flop between passive contemplation and then passive meditation. And it's the passive contemplation where we get to really play with the first two folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, which would be right view and right aspiration, or love. So that is where the magic of mantra meditation comes in. The two bodhicittas of love and letting go. Let us begin with love. Now, tantric love sounds like we should cue the 70s porn music. Bow, chicka, bow, bow. And that's fine. That's a lot of fun. But you can actually practice tantra with your clothes on. Tantra is an umbrella term for many techniques. Only a few of them are sexual. So we're going to take an excerpt from this morning's formal practice so we can play. Well, actually, should we do that? Or should we just jump right in? Let's just jump right into the practice. I think that's the easiest way to make sense of this. And so let's jump in together after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So let's jump right in to the latest iteration of the Tantric Sadhana, or practice, known as Diamond Mind's Easy Meditation. Remember, if we were on the path of being rigid and controlling, we might view the idea of Diamond Mind as an entity to be worshipped and supplicated, but we're not. If you've joined me, if you've found me on the internet, then you've found those who are interested in being flexible and laid back. And as such, we view Diamond Mind merely as an archetype of the 4 bases of mindfulness and the act of bringing them into the paths of love and letting go. So let's begin with first things first. Please chant with me. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with all follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these kind words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for statements literal, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. Oh yes, similes, or what I like to call metaphors with training wheels. So let's begin by reviewing the meaning of, or I should say a meaning of the 6-syllable mantra. I invoke the mastery of love and letting go that can add benza diamond-like strength to a Sempa mind. Whom may all beings enjoy such mastery. So, now that we've done our preliminaries, we can get right to it. And we shall begin with energy work. That's the first thing that drew me to Tantra so many years ago. We're going to bring Lama Keno's figurative practice of calling the teacher as from afar into energy work's path of bliss and letting go. So, once again, we're exploring this figuratively because we choose to be flexible and laid back. This fits in a category which is known by many names, such as Completion Stage Tantra, Bindu Mahamudra, Anu Yoga, or Tikle Drop, which is short for Channels, Winds, and Drops, or Nadi, Prana, and Bindu. So, why am I assailing you with all these vocabulary words? So you get the idea that I'm not making shit up. I'm just not that clever, really. So together, let's chant. Let us invite real or imagined Guru Samanta Mantra to the crown of our head, that in the union of bliss and letting go we may train. So remember, we're not trying to believe anything. We're just playing with ideas because our goal is to train in bliss and letting go. So what we're going to do is take all these words, and this is a common theme we shall practice many times. We're going to take all these words and squish them down to just 6 syllables that we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. So we're going to recite these things, these words, silently, mentally, and passively. We're going during our in-breath, and so this is our first time playing with mantra, which is exciting. During our inhalation, we're going to take all 6 syllables and recite them silently, mentally, passively as we inhale. What are we going to do when we exhale? We're going to physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this easy 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. Now listen, if this is your first time, please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. You're allowed to make mistakes. I promise you're safe. Om benza sato hungu benza sato hungu benza sato hungu benza sato hungu. Actually, I lost track. Let's try this again. Om benza sato hungu benza sato hungu. 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 So, we've worked with contemplation, we've worked with recitation, We've influenced our energy whether or not we can feel it. And now it's time for us to bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. This is known as Dzogchen, or Great Completion Stage Tantra, or Sutra Mahamudra, or Ati Yoga, or Mahasandhi, or Trek Cho's slice through the duality of dread or desire. Why am I sharing you with this inundation of vocabulary words? So you get that this is the authentic teachings simply presented from a worldview that is flexible and laid back and playful and silly and geeky. Now, many people say, well, dude, if I'm already wired because of my sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems to perceive and release in harmony with my inhalation and exhalation, then why sit cross-legged on the floor? Simple. The answer is one word: Urkel. Our brain acts like Urkel. All the organelles of our central nervous system sometimes act in conflict with each other, like a great big mosh pit. And while that can be entertaining, it's not going to necessarily multiply our peace. But here's something really cool. Much like Urkel, our brain is clever and does mean well, and so it takes instruction. And so if we ask our brain to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, our brain will begin cooperating with our sympathetic nervous system. Additionally, if we ask our brain to silently, mentally, passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, this same Urkel-like brain will begin cooperating with our parasympathetic nervous system, which is very cool. Don't worry, in just a few minutes we'll do our first mantra meditation. I'm not holding back on you. In fact, did I forget to put one here? Oh no, we already did mantra meditation. Sorry about that. I'm just a little turned around. So, for those who are concerned that they might not have mastered mind blanking, that's not our job. The first enlightenment, the first of 7 enlightenment factors is mindfulness, which means we're supposed to notice things. We're supposed to passively notice all manner of things. The external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque, and all points in between. Remember, if our body-mind was like a theater, we would not be the producer, the director, the playwright, or the thespian. We would just be a member of the audience enjoying the show, whether it is a drama, a comedy, or a penny dreadful. So we come now to our second quarter, where we're going to use, well, actually I got ahead of myself, sorry about that, together as a team. Let us meditate as transformatively as And now we come to our second of 4 quarters, where we view letting go through a philosophical lens as we bring the illusion of the horizontal duality of us and them into the dance of impermanence and interdependence known as Madhyamaka's yoga, of inconceivability. It's just a really, really fun, visceral way to take what might be dry concepts and make them feel more real. Please chant with me. All visible circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into a rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. Let's unpack this. Melt, the verb melt, functions as a metaphor of impermanence. The verb absorb functions as a metaphor of interdependence. Notice we've replaced the rigid verb is with the gentle verb phrase could be. On a personal note, I find this really humorous or deeply ironic. In an effort to transcend self-centeredness, we are exploring interdependence in a way that relies upon our self-centeredness. The idea that all circumstances could melt into our body. And so the great irony is we're using our self-centeredness to transcend our self-centeredness, which is just chef's kiss. So we're going to take all these words and compress them into just 6 syllables, which we are going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. Remember, it's not our job to actively believe or actively visualize. Our only job is simple, to passively, silently, and mentally recite these words in harmony with our breath. Now that we are more comfortable with these 6 syllables, we can recite them silently, mentally, and passively during our inhalation, while during our exhalation we physically relax as best we can, while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. And yes, if this is your first time, please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. Om Om Benza Sato Hung 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 Om Benza Sato Hung. Together. All sensual bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communicational speech. Om Benza Sato Hung Om Benza Sato Hung Om Benza Sato Hung Om Benza Sato Hung. Oopsie, I got confused. Let's try this again. Om Benza Sato Hung 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 Om Benza Sato Hung. Welcome to this morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Now, if it seems like a short eternity between you clicking the send button and me responding, that's because good old YouTube gives us a time delay. Please chant with me. All resounding interpersonal communication or speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into a rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this awareness or mind. Good morning, Kevin. I'm sorry you're having a painful morning. If you'd like to speak about it, either specifically or generally, I'm totally here for you. Om benza satuhung, 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 om benza satuhung. All whose and minds could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although tantalizing to the eye could be not graspable to the hand. Om benza satuhung, 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 om benza satuhung. And again, let us rest in awareness and release. We come now to our third quarter, where we bring the 4 bases of mindfulness, the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, and the mental. We bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the conventional practice of love and release, where it is love that is emphasized. Together. May all clear minds of all beings know be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by a tikle one syllable seed or bija mantra. So again, we are taking all these words and we're squeezing them into 6 syllables, which we are dividing between our inhalation and our exhalation. Now that we are more comfortable with these 6 syllables, we're going to recite them silently, mentally, and passively during our inhalation. During our exhalation, we're going to physically relax as best we can, while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. Remembering that if this is new to you, you're allowed to give yourself permission to have a learning curve. Om Pensa Sato Hung 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 Om Pensa Sato Hung. Now you could say, dude, isn't this wish fulfillment? Won't this thrust me deeper into the swamp of the duality of dread and desire? No. Because you're not trying to work magic. You're not trying to be Gandalf the Grey. You're simply playing with intention and mantra and breathing and relaxing. That's your goal. Practice this, and you're guaranteed to strengthen the neural pathways responsible for empathy. Now, if on top of that you miraculously change the world, good work, job well done. But that's not our main goal. Our main goal is to exercise the part of our central nervous system responsible for empathy. May all relationships or speech of all beings know be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha speech symbolized by your horizontal mala mantra. So mala mantra, this means the circles in a ring. And horizontal means it's kind of like a frisbee at your heart. Om Pensa Sato Hung 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 Om Pensa Sato Hung. As you relax while chanting the mantra, do not be alarmed when it feels like you were a great celestial rainbird shooting blessings out your pores. It may feel like that, it may not. You may imagine that, you may not. Go along for the ride. It's a kind of like, remember when you were a kid and you go to an amusement park and you'd eat some Cracker Jacks, and on the bottom there was a mystery surprise and you tore it open and you couldn't wait to see what it was? This is what this is like. You have no idea what your brain's going to do spontaneously during the exercise. That's part of the fun. Sit back, enjoy the ride. May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful Halcyon and Buddha statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Yadaman archetype of enlightenment such as Dorje Sempa. Dorje Sempa, or Diamond Mind, is the archetype depicted by this statue right here. Or perhaps I should say the two archetypes sitting in tantric union. Om Benza Satung, 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 Om Benza Satung. May all circumstances or lots of all beings know of the good fortune or boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vanti. Om Benza Satung, 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 Om Benza Satung. And now again we rest the mind. we come to our fourth quarter, where we bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the ultimate practice of love and release, where it is release that is emphasized. Oh, coordination, don't fail me now. Together, as we relax into our exhalation, all appearing circumstances or lots that we perceive during our inhalation could feel as not graspable or void as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or vati of light. So let's really get clear here. We're not saying, gosh, you have to really believe in a paradise. We're not saying you have to visualize a paradise. We're using it purely as a figure of speech, that if there was a paradise and it was made of light, although it would be appearing, it would not be graspable. And this is what is referred to as the two truths. That things can be appearing, yet not graspable. Things can be sensual, yet non-graspable. Things can be resounding, yet non-graspable. Things can be lucid, yet non-graspable. And once again, we're going to take all these words and squish them down to just 8 syllables divided between our inhalation and our exhalation. And once again, it's not our job to believe or visualize or reason. We're already wired to perceive as we breathe in. We're already wired to relax and release as we breathe out. So all we're doing is, just as a kid, we might have hung ornaments on a Christmas tree or a Hanukkah bush. Similarly, we're hanging adjectives on the phases of our breath upon which they are already not only appropriate, but perhaps even redundant. Because we're not focusing on visualizing, which makes us cranky. Because we're just focusing on playing with ideas in harmony with the natural functions of our autonomic nervous system, we sidestep a lot of unnecessary stress. Om Benza Sadohung, 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 Om Benza Sadohung. As we relax into our exhalation, all sensual bodies or forms that we perceive during our inhalation could feel as non-graspable or void as an archetype of enlightenment or yidama of light. Om Benza Sadohung, Om Benza Sadohung, Om Benza Sadohung, Om Benza Sadohung, Om benza satuhung o benza satuhung. Om benza satuhung o benza satuhung. As we relax into our exhalation, all resounding communication, all speech that we perceive during our inhalation could feel is not graspable, or void is or Buddha's real or imagined communication or mantra of light. Om benza satuhung o benza satuhung. 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 As we relax into our exhalation, all perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection or imagination that we clearly notice during our inhalation could feel as non graspable or void as or Buddha's real or imagined suitable or bija of light. Om benza satuhung o benza satuhung. 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 Let's seal this practice by chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings lucid yet void no be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a unsuitable vision. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void no be as loving as a Buddha's speech symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void no be as healthy as a Yadam type depicted in Buddha's statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void no be as fortunate as a pure land of law represented in Buddhist paintings. If you, oopsie, there we go. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately, that is weird. There we go. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.